Erev Torah Batay. Let's talk a little bit about Mayim Acharonim. What is Mayim Acharonim? This is when a person finishes the seudah, the meal, he has to wash a little bit, take a little bit of water, not a lot, a little bit of water, and put it on his fingers. This is called Mayim Acharonim. What's the reason why we do Mayim Acharonim? So there's several reasons that they say, the Chazal. The first thing, the most important thing is, that when a person eats, his hands get dirty from the food. So, he needs to wash it off. It's not kavod to say Birkat Hamazon with dirty hands. Not kavod. This is the reason why a person has to do Mayim Acharonim. That's one reason. There's also another reason brought in the Chazal. They say, because of Melach Sedomit. Right? So, what is Melach Sedomit? That there was, this salt, right, in Sodom, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu overturned those cities, Sodom and Amorah. Right? What happened was that it turned into melach, the whole thing, salt. So that salt, they say, was very sharp. So if a person gets this salt in his eyes, it can make him lo aleinu blind, iver, right? Can you imagine? So because of that, they're afraid, Why? Why are they afraid? Because there's a Gemara like this. The Gemara says that after a person has a seudah, he should have a little bit of salt also afterwards. It's healthy, good for his health. We don't do this today so much, but the thing is, that in those days they used to put salt in their mouth after the meal, and they're afraid, that there's going to be some melach sedomit there, very sharp, and he's going to put it in his eye, and it's going to get lo aleinu, right, blind from the melach sedomit. So because of that, right, they also, this is one of the reasons why they decreed also to do Mayim Acharonim. Today, the poskim say, right, that we don't have melach sedomit in our times. It doesn't exist anymore. But the Rambam says anyway, there may be something, some salt which has also the same properties, very sharp, like melach sedomit. So anyway, right, because of that, he says that's why we should. But the truth is that today we don't eat salt after the meal, So really, for this reason, it's not so important for us, But the reason, because your hands are dirty, and also this, right? If a person, let's say, ate everything with a fork, so he didn't touch the food, So if he didn't touch the food, his hands are not really dirty. So then maybe he doesn't need Mayim Acharonim, right? According to that. And that's why, it says in Tosfot that he says, in our times, we don't really need to do Mayim Acharonim. Why? Because our hands are clean, really, and we're not really dirty, the hands are not dirty, and we don't have Melach Sedomit anymore, we don't have this reason either, we don't eat salt after the meal, we don't do any of these things. So says Tosfot, you know what? You don't need Mayim Acharonim, He says, our minhag is we don't do Mayim Acharonim. In Europe, that's the way it was, They weren't doing this. They weren't doing Mayim Acharonim in those times. So what's the halakha b'emet, right? For us, by the way, the Sephardim, we never accepted this Tosfot as a minhag. For us, right, we say Mayim Acharonim chova, right? What does that mean? It's obligation. Right? That's what we say, right? What's the reason, by the way, we say Mayim Acharonim chova when we do the meal, seudah, right? Before we do Mayim Acharonim, we say Mayim Acharonim chova. Why do you have to say this? For what? What do you need it for? So it really comes from the Ben Ish Chai, right? Of Yosef Chaim Alav Shalom. He says that the Ben Ish Chai, the reason why we say Mayim Acharonim chova before we do Mayim Acharonim is because it says in the Pirkei Avot that a person, who eats a seudah, he has to have divrei Torah in the seudah. Otherwise, it's like tameh, it's like impure, didn't have divrei Torah, the seudah. So says the Ben Ish Chai, right? Just in case you didn't do you didn't do any divrei Torah, so we say in the end, right? Mayim Acharonim chova, it's divrei Torah, halakha, So you did divrei Torah. That's why the Ben Ish Chai says, right? That's the proper thing to do, to say Mayim. But not everybody does this. But anyway, it's good, It's like a minhag, right? by a lot of people. They say Mayim Acharonim chova because this way you said divrei Torah. This is the reason why. But so we hold, right? We the Sephardim, we hold that Mayim Acharonim chova. It's an obligation. We don't hold like the Tosfot. So we don't really rely on that. There are some Ashkenazim, by the way, who don't do Mayim Acharonim because of Tosfot, like this, It's brought down also the Raman, the Shulchan Aruch. Some Ashkenazim, they don't do it. And it's also some of them, they say, what? The men should do it and the women don't do it, like this, like 50-50, But for us, this is not a minhag. For us, the minhag is we do Mayim Acharonim, right? And what's the reason why? Why don't we rely on Tosfot? Maybe we should, right? So what's the answer to that? So the answer is that it says in the Zohar Kadosh something, a little bit scary over there. It says, that if a person eats a meal, he's a seudah, and he doesn't do Mayim Acharonim, so you know what happens, right? When he opens the Sidur to say Birkat Hamazon, comes this, Satan, right next to him, right on top of him, and everything he says, Birkat Hamazon, he cancels it, he's like buttles it. So the prayer cannot go up, because of this. He ruins the Birkat Hamazon. The Satan, comes. This angel, this Malach, comes and messes you up. Why? Because you didn't do Mayim Acharonim, right? So you see from there, right, according to Kabbalah, according to Zohar Kadosh, right, really, Mayim Acharonim is very important, because otherwise your Birkat Hamazon is not going to be accepted. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Isn't it Birkat Hamazon is a mitzvah from Torah?
Of course, yeah. Ve'achalta ve'sabarta u'verachta et Adonai Elohecha, right? That's what it says. Pasuk. So you see from there, we have to do Birkat Hamazon. Yeah. Right? But the thing is, I have to tell you, what does the pasuk say, right? Ve'achalta ve'sabarta. So what does that mean, right? You eat and you're satiated, right? You're full, and then you say berachta. Then say Birkat Hamazon. So from the Torah, it's only if you're full. You have to say Birkat Hamazon. But the rabbis also added, even if you ate a kazait of bread, you have to say Birkat Hamazon anyway. So now that's the midag, right? The halacha is that we say Birkat Hamazon even if we ate one kazait of bread. You're not full, but still you ate a kazait. Rabbi said say Birkat Hamazon. That's only the rabbanat, it's only from rabbis. So it depends on how much you ate. Right? That's a whole discussion in itself. But anyway, right, as we said, so Mayim Acharonim is a very important thing. A person shouldn't skip that. Also, I want to tell you another thing, right? Which is that what about the issue of right, making the kos bracha, after Birkat Hamazon? What's the halakha? Are you supposed to do this? You're not supposed to do it, right? So, some people do, yeah, right? So, what's the halakha bemet, right? So the halakha is like this, that nowadays the truth is, it says in the Shulchan Aruch that we're not really so makpid about this to do kos bracha, we're not really so makpid. So it's like a chumrah, if you want to do it, to get the bracha, because there's a bracha that comes from this. Kos bracha. There's a bracha. That's why in the old days, when they used to get the kos bracha, they would drink, the kos bracha, and they would send it to their wife. Why? Because the wife would drink it, it would give her bracha. Also, to have children, it would give her a blessing, So this was a big thing, in the old days, to do kos bracha. But it says in Zohar Kadosh something interesting, right? That kos bracha, you're only supposed to do when there's three people, eating together. 3 men, right? But if there's not 3 men, just you, right, and your friend, let's say you and your wife, whatever, right? Whatever, you and your son. So there's no kos bracha. Only kos bracha is for three men. So therefore, if you have 3 men, it's a mitzvah to do kos bracha, not an obligation, mitzvah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is the cup supposed to be full or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it should be full, yeah, of course, yeah. You should fill it up, and, yeah. I'm sorry?
Do you say bracha for wine?
Yeah, after you do Birkat Hamazon, you say Borei Peri Gefen. Yeah, of course. Sabri Banan, Borei Peri Gefen. That's the way it's done, right? So it's a thing, it's a good thing to do. Not obligation, but it brings bracha, because the thing is like this, the Chazal, they say that the table, right, and your seudah is like the mizbeach, in your house. So the bracha comes from there, from the table. And that's why a person has to be careful about certain things, on the table. Number one, they say also another thing, which is very important, right? If you want to get bracha, right, do Mayim Acharonim, number one, right? This takes away your bracha. You don't do Mayim Acharonim, number one. Number two, do kos bracha. If you have 3 people, right? This also brings bracha to the house. Number 3, when you do Birkat Hamazon, very important, right? There should be some bread on the table, Don't say Birkat Hamazon on an empty table. This is no good, right? Because there's no bracha like this for Birkat Hamazon, nothing. So a person should be careful about that. So he should always leave some bread on the table, to make sure that he's got the bracha, because otherwise there's no bracha. Now here's the thing, right? Let's say this and we'll finish over here. There's an interesting thing over there with this, that they say, if you don't have any bread left on the table, nothing left there, so bread on the table. Bring something. Do. But what you're not supposed to do is, don't bring a whole loaf, kikar shalem. Don't bring a whole loaf. Just bring slices. Why? Why not? Why? I'm sorry. Yeah.
But it could be also leftovers from the bread.
Yeah, leftover. Yeah. But let's say you don't have, right? There was no leftover. So even if you don't have leftover, bring some, from the closet, whatever, right? From the pantry. Bring some, from the refrigerator, whatever. Right?
Let's say you have 2 breads and people ate it, everything.
Yeah.
But whatever is like small pieces fell on the table, it's enough?
That's good. Yeah. You have crumbs there, right? The small pieces. Yeah, it's fine. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Why do you put salt on next to that?
Good question, right? I'm going to answer you in just 1 second, right? Let's just finish with the bread first of all. Right? So we're saying, right, that a person should have bread. Now here's the thing, right? As we said, that the halacha says, but don't bring a complete loaf, to the table to put it. No good. Why is this no good? Why no good? It's a complete loaf. I'm talking about for Birkat Hamazon, right? I'm not talking about for the meal. For the Seudah, you can bring whatever you want. Because this was the minhag of the Avodah Zarah, Of the Avodah Zarah, they used to do this. They used to put like loaves of bread on their table, complete loaves. So that's why, the rabbis told us, don't do this because it looks like you're doing Avodah Zarah. So that's why, bring slices, they said, don't bring a whole loaf for Birkat Hamazon. But, here's the thing, right? Even though that you're not supposed to bring a whole loaf, but if you don't have any slices, let's say, right? All you have is a whole loaf. That's all you got. So you can bring it. Why? Because it's very important, that there should be over there, for bracha, that you should have some bread on the table. So if you have nothing else, no slices, bring the whole loaf also. That's also good. You can bring that too, because we want you to have bracha, for the Birkat Hamazon. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Kashomer. Okay, mechila. Oh, good. Okay, so good you reminded me. When you have somebody like this, right, you remember everything. Baruch Hashem, Yishtabach Shemo. So salt, the reason why we want to have salt on the table is because there's a pasuk, in the Chumash, it says, right, that there should always be salt on the Mizbeach, in the Beit HaMikdash, So they say the table is like your Mizbeach in the home, so just like you want to have salt on the Mizbeach, also you want to have salt on your table. It's like the Mizbeach. This is the reason, This also brings bracha, So it's also important to have salt on the table. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן אמן. רבי חנניה בן השומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לכל ישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות, שאמרנו לחפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.